All right, I wanted to give you guys an update of our current solar rack redesign project. We've got all of our new brackets and cross braces and the new Iron Ridge solar rails all completely installed. You just have to slide these rails back a little bit because we're going to have the rear solar panel overhang a little bit more to cover this mini split back here. And then when we're all done, this will hold 9 of our 10 new commercial size solar panels. They're about 89 inches in width, so they'll overhang a few inches on either side of these rails. Surprisingly, they won't overhang the edge of the bus, but they'll be close. Added benefit is the whole rack system is raised off of the roof about 13 inches to the top of the rails. And what that is going to allow us is to get more airflow under these panels, which will help keep the roof a lot cooler than it was before. Previously, we used some brackets from Sojourner's Way from Jonathan Roberts, which works great, and they are an easy, simple install to do. Haven't had a single issue with them. The only thing is the rails with his brackets sit very close to the roof, which is completely fine. I suspect, though, that with the panels sitting that close to the roof, they weren't getting enough airflow underneath of them to keep everything completely cool. We noticed on some pretty hot days here in North Carolina that even with the mini splits going inside the bus and all the panels covering the whole white section of the roof that you see, it was covered front to back, it would still feel pretty hot up on top of the ceiling in the bus. So my thinking is that there wasn't sufficient space under the panels for airflow to happen. A lot of that heat was just getting trapped underneath. And then the panels that we had before, they're not bifacial panels like our new ones. So any heat that gets trapped underneath from, maybe the sun hitting the side of the bus and it's bouncing the sun rays back up underneath the panel, it's got nowhere to go. It's just trapping that heat underneath and just heating up the backside of the panel. So we'll see, though, if this new system will kind of improve upon the heat, but also having them raised off the roof, we might see some gains from our bifacial panels that we're putting up here. Now, obviously, bifacial panels, you probably won't see much of a gain with them being mounted, especially flat mounted on the roof of a bus. Generally, they require about 4 feet of clearance from the ground to actually generate upwards of their 25% additional power. I'm predicting that even though they're only raised 13 inches off of the roof and they're on a bus, that we won't see no gains at all. We'll see something a little extra, maybe in the range of a couple percent, maybe as high as 8, 9, 10%. It's going to be hard to say. But I don't think that we're not going to see any improvement from the bifacial panels being on here. I mean, there's people in RV groups who have done this, and they've provided numbers and statistics that show that their panels do generate a little bit more power at different times of the day, depending on how the sun is hitting the roof on either side, which makes sense. I mean, the bus roof is curved. It's a white reflective surface. If the sun is rising up during the day and the sun rays are coming in, hitting this side of the roof, it's going to bounce up underneath that bit of the panel that overhangs if you've got big commercial panels like we have. So there's gains to be expected, although minuscule, but they add up over 10 panels. So we'll see. We'll see if that actually does anything for us. Probably the last benefit, like I mentioned before, with having them raised and better airflow underneath keeps the roof cooler. The way bifacial panels work is the top layer is kind of translucent, so the sun rays can penetrate through the solar panel, strike the ground or the roof in this case, and then bounce back up and hit the back side of the panel where there's additional cells. That's basically how bifacial solar panels work. The effect of that is the panels will actually operate a little bit cooler, and they'll stay cooler due to that design of them being translucent. They're not going to trap a lot of heat underneath of them, because some of the sun rays that bounce off of the roof, they will go back through the panel and escape out into the atmosphere. So yeah, we'll see some gains. We'll see some heat improvement depending on the time of the year, and if we're going down the road. Obviously the panels will be cooler, they'll be generating more solar, but only time will tell. I'm going to compile a lot of data watching these panels over the next 6 months or so, especially when we're traveling up to Swarm in New York this fall. And then hopefully I can share all of that with you guys. So if you want to go the route of bifacial panels and commercial panels, then maybe that's an upgrade that's worthwhile for you. To give you a little bit more detail about the mounting system that we came up with, I actually had some ideas kicking around from Mark Anderson, actually. On his bus, he's using some roof deck brackets from Skoolie.com, and all he's doing is just placing the brackets as you see ours, every so many feet down the bus, which in our case would be right where the hat channel is. He's just mounting those brackets up there, and then he's mounting his rails directly onto them, and then using additional solar rails as cross braces. And his system is pretty solid too. And I think his is about probably the same height off of his bus as ours is, probably 12, 13 inches, depending on the height of the rails. The only thing is the Skoolie.com brackets are expensive because they do custom fabrication. So rightfully so, they're expensive because they make really, really good stuff. Highly recommend them. If you ever get a chance to check out their shop out by Asheville, definitely do it. They're a great bunch of people, and the products that they turn out for the Skoolie community are just second to none. I totally would have gone with their brackets, but unfortunately, they wouldn't work with our time frame. We had a deadline to get this new system in place, so we don't have to run on our generator constantly down there. So we had to come up with a solution very, very quickly. And at first, I didn't think that we were actually going to be able to find something that could work for us. But through enough research and trial and error, we kind of came up with an interesting find on Amazon. And I'll kind of show you on this bracket down here. Let me just get down here on the roof. So what we came up with is this bracket, this whole piece that you see right here. These brackets can be found on Amazon, I think for like $30 some odd for a 2-pack of them. And they're not like the greatest things in the world in terms of, probably manufacturing quality. They're just a product off of Amazon. They're probably straight from China or somewhere else. But these things are beefy steel. The bolts are more than enough to carry the load of this. Like, once I saw these in person, I felt a lot more confident about using them on the roof of my bus. Because I was a little worried beforehand, like, yeah, they're cheap, so how good can they really be, Well, they're really good. So basically what these brackets are, if you can't see from here, they're designed to accept standard unistrut size, which I believe is 1 5/8 inches. So this will take standard unistrut, and mainly what these brackets are used for is for people kind of building DIY pergolas at their homes. You can affix these to an adjacent roof if you're trying to hold up like a beam. They make them in different styles, different configurations. But going with this one, we found that it was going to be the easiest to make our uprights, as you can see here. So all we did was just order these brackets, and then we went to the store, grabbed some standard size unistrut, and then we chopped them down to, I think it was about 9 or 9¼ inches in height. So that way, these brackets are about 6.4 inches tall. Adding that on there where these bolt in gets us like 12.5, and then with the solar rails mounted gets us up to 13. So we're exactly 13 inches from the top of the rail to the roof of the bus. But yeah, we just cut these pieces, slide them in. We have spring nuts in here meant for unistrut. And then we secured everything with grade 8 bolts, lock washers, and then also some red thread locker that goes into these as well. So like this whole thing is solid. Like it's not gonna go anywhere. It doesn't move at all. They're torqued down pretty good. And then after we got these uprights made, we affixed them on every hat channel going down the length of the bus on both sides. We've got 5 of them up here, which is more than enough because the solar rail can span up to 8 feet. And, you know, these distances between here are not 8 feet. So these are more than supported. Like they're going to hold our panels just fine. So we got them all bolted, and how we did that was we used 3/8 riv nuts into the hat channel here. Pretty much the same method as how we determined how to attach Jonathan's brackets. You know, we wanted to go into the hat channel because this is the thickest part of the roof in terms of overlapping pieces of metal and the hat channel that's behind it. So we drilled with a 11/32 bit because we needed that exact bit for these riv nuts because we did not want there to be any play in these riv nuts. So we drilled out holes, 11/32 drill bit, and then we put our riv nuts in, and we used our new pneumatic riv nut setter from Astro Pneumatics. Highly recommend getting the proper tool to do riv nuts. You can get the hand operated ones, but you're going to be up here a while doing all of these bolts. It is way easier to just go invest in an air compressor and get a pneumatic tool that can set riv nuts, and it will literally change your life if you're building out buses like this. So we got all that done. Again, thread locker, washer, lock washer, torqued them down, and they're solid. They're not going anywhere. We're gonna seal all this up with some Sikaflex around the base, self-leveling sealant on top of the bolts. It's not going to have any problems leaking. The riv nuts are sealed in there too, but we're going to go overboard just to make sure that nothing can get in those holes whatsoever. For the hardware, we used all grade 8 bolts. So we just went to Tractor Supply, grabbed pretty much their entire stock of 3/8, and they charge by the pound. So it really was not that expensive. I would never go to Lowe's or Home Depot to get any hardware. Just go to Tractor Supply. They charge by the pound. It's great. So we used grade 8 on everything, which is probably overkill, but whatever. That's what I wanted to use. And then we added these cross members, which is the thinner profile unistrut. This is the 14 gauge. This stuff is the 12 gauge. But we just affixed these as cross braces. So it holds both of these uprights in place and torque them down, and they do not move at all. Inadvertently, which I did not plan on, but helped us out a lot, these brackets, the way we designed them, gave us some level of adjustability using these angled metal pieces. I was gonna actually get the right angle pieces from Lowe's when I bought the unistrut, but I'd already bought these ones off of Amazon, and one side just has a regular hole for 3/8 bolt. The other side has kind of like this channel here, so you can kind of position the bolt where you want it. That actually helped us quite a bit because we cut all of these to one size down the whole length of the bus because we knew that that's the size that the span should be. We had already known that a couple of these uprights that we fastened, they were a little off. So we needed some way to adjust and get everything square. Well, using this, we can just undo this bolt and we can push this upright further out or bring it further back if it's not already all the way back to this to give us some adjustability to make this whole rail straight on the top. Same thing with down here. We can undo these 2 bolts and then we can move this piece of unistrut up or down based on what we need to do for adjustments, which we didn't need to do much here, but mainly just because of how these holes line up and how we cut. Sometimes we had to make some adjustments so we could get the bolts to go through for the rack. But yeah, doing that, we were able to get everything square. We were able to get them all to the same height. So every single bracket measures 13 inches from the roof to the top of the solar rail. and then they all have cross braces. So now the only thing that we have to do is loosen the nuts on here for the T-bolts, slide these rails back to how far we want the panels to overhang, and then if it proves to be far enough back to where I might want to shore these up a little bit more, I might do some aluminum flat bar piece to come down as a cantilever to the back of the bus just to provide extra support. I'm not expecting I'm going to have to do that. I know people overhang their panels quite a bit, but we'll play that one by ear. So yeah, we just got to slide these rails back, mount the panels, which we're going to do tomorrow, and then wiring comes after that. We had our previous panels wired in a 2S2P setup, so we had 4 panels on one charge controller, 4 panels on another. For the 10 panels, we are going to be keeping one of our Victron 15060s to utilize for the 2 additional panels from our new set. The other 8 of our new panels are going to be going into our new 15085 charge controllers. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of rewiring tomorrow, replace some wires with some 2 gauge just to handle the increase in current, and then upgrade some breakers and a few other things, but minor stuff really. And then we just got to cinch up the cables, tie them up around some of the rails, make it all nice up here, and I'm going to clean the roof before we even bring the panels up. And maybe we might have all that done before the middle of tomorrow, maybe. I might be a little optimistic there, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much of a beast these new panels are going to be to hoist up here. They're about 61 pounds a piece and 20 pounds heavier than our LG panels down there. And they're about 4 inches wider. So might be interesting to slide them up this ladder, but we'll see what we need to do. And I think I might have mentioned it before, but only 9 panels are going to fit on this upper section. So starting from front to back, it'll probably end somewhere around, probably around here. It'll overhang half the distance of this transition. Our 10th panel, we're going to put down above the cab area, but we have to build that whole bracket out, which is going to be at a later date. So for now, we're going to get all 9 put up, but only 8 of them are going to be hooked up. So we'll still have the same 2S2P config on 2 charge controllers. Even though we're doing that and not hooking up the other 2 panels, we're already increasing our solar generation capability by a lot. Previously, we had 360 watt LG panels down there, and we had 8 of them. So that'll make about 2880 watts. And that's under ideal conditions, which obviously in a bus and where we are, you know, it's never going to be ideal. But our new panels, which are in the trailer, we have 710 pounds worth of panels, and those are 530 watts a piece, and they're bifacial with a potential gain of 25%, which would theoretically make up to 650 watts. But, you know, we'll never see that. I'm thinking possibly we may see out of some panels 570 watts, maybe 600, but that's being super optimistic. Either way, with the newer, bigger panels and the type of cells that they use half-cut cells, so they do a little bit better with shading. Our solar generation will be greatly increased, even though, you know, we have very limited amount of sky that we're working with. Like the sun rises up here. We only get a few hours of sunlight until they start getting behind these trees. So that was our main reason for upgrading our panels. Like, we've been wanting to, but you know, where we are for the time being for the next 6 months or more, we needed something to help top our batteries off and not run our generator all the time. So we'll see. I'll make another video tomorrow once we start getting our panels hoisted up and get everything hooked up, and post some more pictures of what everything looks like. It'll be a nice, shiny, brand new install, and I'll update you guys then. Have a good one.